You've heard of Metal Gear Rising, Bayonetta, Nier Automata, but what if I told you there's one more Platinum game that's just as good as these that kind of slipped under everyone's radar? Astral Chain is one of the most underappreciated Switch exclusives in my opinion, and it makes me irrationally angry that 1-2 Switch sold 3 times more copies than it, so here I am making this video. Astral Chain is a hack and slash game which already makes it worth checking out because as everyone knows, there are only 3 hack and slash games in existence because there is only one man on planet Earth that knows how to make them. And he also happened to supervise the development of this game. So if you don't really want to take the word of some deranged 21-year-old talking to himself in his room, this guy apparently thinks the game was good enough to be released, so there's that. Astral Chain had the unfortunate timing of being released in between Fire Emblem Three Houses and Link's Awakening, both of which are from extremely established franchises with gigantic fan bases. It also kind of got overshadowed by another hack and slash game that released earlier that year, which was probably also the most anticipated game to come out in 2019. So if you've never really heard about Astral Chain, then chances are it's probably not your fault. But putting aside all that background information, if you haven't clicked off the video by now, then I'm sure you're wondering what makes this game so special and why it's worth your time. In most well-liked action games, over and above having a solid combat system that not only flows well but is also visually appealing, there are usually some other features that add to the combat's depth, like how Dande can switch between his weapons and styles mid-combo, and Raido can parry shit and slow down time. But the way Astral Chain separates itself from its peers is that instead of controlling just one guy, you're handling 2 guys who are linked by this long stringy thing. I forget what the word is. Oh right. Oh yeah, oh silly me guys. I'm so silly. That being said, in Astral Chain you still primarily manage one character, which is Mr. and Mrs. Human over here, but the controls are implemented in a way such that you can kind of toggle your control over Mr. Legion, who is this alien guy that helps you fight. And due to the fact that the left trigger is used for almost every Legion action, you never need to take your thumb off the left stick, so you never really lose control over the human character's movement. I know when I say it like this, it probably just sounds like, oh wow, okay, yeah, you control the character with the controller, right? Haha. But the point is that a big reason why the concept of having to manage 2 characters instead of 1 was carried out so well without the game feeling like a clunky mess is because the controls were so well thought out. Now, in order to break down the rest of the combat system and why I like it so much, there's one core mechanic I need to briefly explain. So you might have noticed that in some of the background gameplay footage so far, there are these occasional blue flashes during the combat. These are indicators for what the game calls sync attacks, which are essentially how you perform combos together with your Legion. And triggering these as frequently as possible is pretty much what the entire system of this game revolves around. These sync attacks are very cleverly intertwined with every action you can take during combat. You have your basic rush combos, charge attacks, special moves. You can even use the Astral Chain to tie enemies up, go airborne, and counter certain attacks. All these things can lead into sync attacks which vary depending on the action you started with, giving the player a variety of options to choose from and be creative when it comes to beating up alien dudes, which is a pretty important thing to nail for any action game. Although there are only really 2 buttons you press to attack in this game, and there aren't any elaborate button sequences you need to remember, what the game rewards you for is memorizing the animations and knowing when a sync attack can be triggered. And when you eventually get good enough at this, you get this constant feedback loop of and it really makes you wonder why people do drugs when they can just play Astral Chain. You also get 5 unique legions to switch between, all with their own different sync attacks and abilities. You got Swordman, who he can swing around like a fucking cowboy. Arrow Guy can take people out from a distance. You like JoJo's Bizarre Adventure? Well, what have I told you? You don't just have Star Platinum, you can be Star Platinum. You got Axe Dude, who has a big shield and protects you, and of course you can pet the fucking dog, because this is a good game. You also get 3 weapons to switch between. Pretty self-explanatory. All these things come together to create this combat system that is not only extremely satisfying to learn and play with, but one that also has enough depth for crazy shit like this to be possible. But in spite of all that, there are a few things about the combat I don't really like, and I think it's only fair that I bring them up as well. It kind of sucks that enemies can sometimes interrupt your sync attack combos, although I guess this does prevent you from just mashing the triggers brainlessly. There are a few enemy types in the game that are really fucking annoying. I get that they probably wanted to include enemies with specific weaknesses to make the game more combat puzzly, but goddamn are some of them the most irritating little shits that this tiny piece of plastic can process. Sometimes the game makes you fight shit in an area that's way too small, which makes the combat devolve into whatever the hell this is. All these complaints are probably kind of subjective, and honestly I mostly played the bonus missions when I went back to record footage for this game, so I don't think these issues are super prominent in the main campaign, but I will say there definitely is some room for improvement. And that's it. That's kind of all there really is to say about this game. I mean, I don't think you'd really play it for anything else besides the combat, kind of like how you don't play Devil May Cry for the story. But there are a few other aspects of the game that I think are worth noting. Although the game's primary focus is its combat segments, there are a lot of pretty interesting things to do in between them, because over and above being an interdimensional monster slayer, you're also just a regular police officer, which means you get to do stuff like returning lost items, or buying ice cream for kids, or playing Rush Hour, or running around the police HQ in a dog costume. There's a pretty wide variety of side activities in the game, and I personally enjoy them a lot because I feel like they serve as good ways to entertain the player and add some variety to the overall gameplay during the breaks between combat segments. Sorry, excuse me, teacher? This is all really cool and all, but I just want to beat up aliens. I don't really care about anything else. Well, the good news is that most of the downtime is actually optional. If you really want to just enjoy the combat, you can usually head straight to the mission objective and just ignore all the side quests. The bad news is that some missions do have unskippable downtime where you clean up alien poop off the ground or go through a pointless stealth segment, but fortunately these are a minority, and the stealth isn't even mandatory. You can just beat everyone up and move on. You're probably not going to buy this game for its story, which you rightfully shouldn't, because it's really nothing to write home about. It does do its job of just being there to drive the game forward and give you a reason to be doing all the shit you do, but it's not really going to blow your mind. But if you do want to play a hack and slash game just for its story, there's already another game out there that you can do that with. What is surprisingly really good, however, is Astral Chain's soundtrack. It's kind of hard to notice at first because there's so much other shit going on during combat that it's hard to pay attention to the music, but there are a lot of times where you'll probably find yourself going like this. There's still quite a lot of side stuff I didn't really talk about. All the missions are chock full of secrets and collectibles, and there's a crap ton of achievements which are in the game itself, because the Switch doesn't have a trophy system. Why does it not have a trophy system? I also really appreciate the customization options. You might have noticed my character's clothes and colors changing a lot throughout the footage. And also, yes, my Legion colors are a nod to Evangelion. In fact, one of the color sets is pre-made in the game for you. Pretty cool reference if you ask me. There's also a crap ton of post-game content for people who really enjoy the combat, also known as me. All in all, if you end up really enjoying this game, there are a lot of reasons to keep playing it even after you finish the campaign. If you haven't been listening to a single word of what I've been saying, the point of this video is basically that Astral Chain is one of the most unique combat systems I've seen in a hack and slash game that is extremely fun, even if it is a bit rough around the edges. There's a lot of side content to enjoy if you're into having more variety in your playthrough, and also loads of post-game content and replayability. The game does fall short in some areas like its story, but it doesn't fuck up anything too major. In terms of overall enjoyment compared to the other exclusives on the Switch, I probably still wouldn't put this game on the same level as Breath of the Wild or Mario Odyssey, but it's definitely around the same tier as Three Houses, if not maybe even better. If you're a fan of hack and slash games, I'd say definitely give this one a try. I don't think you'll be disappointed. I want to give a special thanks and shout out to my friends Tron and Nicole for helping me with the footage for Devil May Cry 5. All the gameplay shown in this video of that game is by them, and a link to their Twitters can be found in the description below. If you want to see some banger tweets every now and then, or some cool ass drawings, be sure to give them a follow. As usual, thank you very much for taking time out of your day to watch my content. It's truly amazing to me that people are willing to hear what some random guy like me has to say about video games and shit, and I really appreciate all of your support, even though I can't really upload very frequently. Thank you all so much for 400 subs. If you want, you can follow your boy on Twitter. Links in the description as well. As usual, any likes or shares or comments or subscriptions are greatly appreciated. Until we see each other again.